Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we're going to talk about creation, how creation came. So Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1 starts out with Sat Eva Saumya Idam Agra Asit Ekam Eva Advitiyam. And he says, all that here, my dear, all that was here, my dear, was one without a second in the beginning. Only one undifferentiated self. And from this self arose what's called Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is Maya, the root cause, the seed cause of all things. It got disturbed. The three gunas, it says, got disturbed. It was in a stable state. And that stable state slowly started to bubble up. Like when you begin to awake from that deep sleep, you're in a completely stable state of unmanifest potential. And somehow, something started to stir up within you. The mind started to stir up. All the intelligence in your mind started to stir up. And it led from a completely unresolved state of unmanifest into slowly into a world of forms. So Mula Prakriti, the root seed cause from which everything arose, the entire blueprint. And so this blueprint, Mahat Tattvam, Mahat Tattvam is the blueprint of all that is to come, the structure, the forms, the orders, the laws, the connections that will take place. All that started to arise now because creation needs to come. The universe needs to come. You need to understand how space and time works and how laws and orders will work, how dharma will work, what will guide you through life and help you to move forward. You need to know how to create a star, how to create planets for life forms, because jivas need to now come into the universe. They have unfinished business. You and I have unfinished business. That's why we're here. So we waited for the universe to arise. So Mahat Tattvam, therefore, is the blueprint. And we call this blueprint in Sanskrit Hiranyagarbha. So Hiranyagarbha, another name for that is macrocosmic buddhi, the total intellect of all things. So you and I have an intellect pertinent to our speciality. If you are into business, then you have very good sound knowledge in business. If you are a builder, then you have very sound knowledge of structure and architecture and strengthening the materials and various forms of materials. And that, of course, took you some time to learn about. It took you maybe 10 years. And people then started to hire you for this because they value your knowledge that you have taken the time to extract by observation and thus create something useful out of your knowledge. Therefore, you took a blueprint from the total blueprint and you said, I want just one little section. This is what I don't want this section. I want this section called building or coding or business, and I'm going to just take that section, work on it, and then people see value. But what they really see value in is they see value in Ishvara's intelligence. They see the value in this blueprint. And so you took one little blueprint and you called it accounting or mathematics. and you spend 10 years learning about total knowledge, Hiranyagarbha, the total intellect, the total connections of all things. From this Mahatatvam arose the Ahamkara. See, now that the universe has to come, that the Lord is to create, that Ishvara is to create the universe, I need to create. I am going to create. You need to have that I, the total being, Ahamkara. Now Ishvara's I, when Ishvara says I, and when a small being says I, they can only say I because they exist. So their I depends on the self. But when Ishvara says I, his I includes everything, includes me, includes you as a person, includes the forms, includes the world. But when we say I, our I only includes this much. So Ishvara's I is the total of all things. And from this Ahamkara, the Lord says, I am now going to create this universe for us. Not that there is some mouth saying this, but if you were to communicate this poetically, you have to show it through words. So you cannot quite say now, so what is this Lord? Is this some being out there chilling out and saying, I am going to create? This is a way of dialogue, of how we communicate. So sometimes we have to switch off this logic that it wants to break down these statements that don't quite make sense, and you just have to provisionally accept it so that you can follow the process. And from this Ahamkara arose 16 components. Now these 16 components are there in preparation for the universe that is yet to come. There's no Big Bang right now. And the first one is 5 subtle elements. Remember, 5 subtle elements are not 5 gross elements. Only when 5 gross elements come, then we have the time and space arising, like physical time that we experience, the physical space. 5 subtle elements just means a thought, a blueprint for what is to come. So the 5 subtle elements, and your thoughts, by the way, are made of 5 subtle elements. So your thoughts are made of the same stuff that was there before the physical universe came. That's quite fascinating to think about. From the 5 subtle elements arose 5 capacities for perception, because in preparation for all beings in the universe, including ants and tigers and spiders and human beings and monkeys, you have to give them a way to perceive and see a mountain or food and say, this one goes there to eat. So let's give them 5 capacities of perception. Okay, we call them Jnana Indriya. We also have to give you a way to move. The food is over there, yummy, 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 but I need a leg to move. I need capacity of movement. What it means to actually move these 2 sticks that are here, and right, like that. See, we take this for granted, but this is all part of that, within that intelligence. So I will give you 5 capacities for movement, 5 capacities for action in this world. So as we know, 5 capacities of perception are sight, sound, smell, touching, and smelling. And 5 capacities for movement, you tell me.
Grasping, walking, excretion, procreation, and speech.
Super. Okay, so we all relate to this. So this means, think not that this is only for a human being. A bird, I mean, they do this every morning. They collectively speak in their language. We don't understand this, of course. Dogs do this. Everyone does this in their way. In body language, even body language communication is capacity for, you could say, speech. So don't think speech is just vocals, like a parrot or a human being. It is a way of gesturing in a way that I can communicate with my group of species, like a monkey or a human. So we have to give this capacity, and it's infused in all beings throughout the universe, including devas and devatas.
The ultimate love?
That's a good question. No. Do they also make love? Is there sex in heaven and so on? No, because see, number one, you have to understand, we only have a physical body here, and the physical body on Earth, you have a very unique attribute, which is to desire things at the level of the body, because love, that desire, that you could even call it lust, or you can call it just desire for being with another body, that is very unique to Earth. It's also stated that it might be in the lower regions, but mostly it's on Earth. The moment you go up, your physical body becomes a lot subtler. And that physical body has a different need. It no longer has this need or idea of having to merge or connect with another physical body. So that is only here on Earth. In heaven, you don't have that, because you have a much lighter physical body. And some other texts will say you don't have a physical body at all in heaven. You just have a subtle body. And because you only have a subtle body, you're not bound to being pulled down by gravity or certain physics that we are bound to here. So here, if this body falls, then it dies. But as a subtle body cannot fall. So this is one way to understand it. And so there's nothing to, in terms of physical connection, there's nothing to see up there. It's right here, right now, that we have on Earth. So this is where we have this unique Earth. Okay? So if someone's looking forward for that in heaven, yeah, he is a surprise. Yeah. And you see this whole... yeah, exactly. And this whole need for physical connection, this too drops away. So it's not something that the people speak about. It genuinely leaves, because as the mind matures more and more and more, it may be very surprising to someone who thinks about it or wants it. It just genuinely completely evaporates. And it's like talking to your mother or your father. And so that's how it is. This is why swamis and acharyas and so on, they can be without a partner. It's not like they're holding themselves back. Now, sometimes there are those who prematurely do this because they're trying to be like someone else. They see a wise person doesn't have any desire for this, because not that there's something wrong with them, but just that they resolve their inner lust issues. They worked on it. So sometimes when we hold this back, it becomes like toxins within. And the person, instead of expressing it physically, they express it in the mind, okay? Or online in the websites, which happens to be in the top 100 websites, that within the top 15, it's porn. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of views per day. Okay, at least 1 billion views. You can see how popular the identity to the physical body is. It's astronomical. So that identity to that lust or connection, it genuinely comes down the more you entertain all that is here is Ishvara. And your life becomes much easier. You just don't have that anymore. So 16 components, got 5, 5, 5, and you got manaha. This is a different model. When you say manaha, you just mean antahkarana. But we'll stick true to the teaching, manaha, which is mind. So naturally, if you think about the mind, it means that cockpit which is able to bring all this data and process this data in the world and then apply the right action. Now, from this mind, now we have a ready blueprint. We have everything that we need for a jiva to come. We have given you a subtle body. We have infused that subtle body with past causes. And now you need a physical body, a locus of experience, so that I can receive my punyam and papam from the past incarnation, from the past universe. And for that, the 5 gross elements now come. 5 gross. Which basically is like periodic table of elements. However, there's one uniqueness between this and periodic table, is that we have 2 more components here, which is space and time. In periodic table, you don't have space and time. So 5 gross basically includes all solids, liquids, and gases, including space and time. Whereas periodic table includes solids, liquids, and gases. There is no space and time. And what's worthy notable mentioning is this is a model. This is just a simple map to help you get some sense how did it all come. So again, these are just tools. They're not meant to be entertained into. If you want to entertain into them and look them up more details, fine, do so. I remember my own starting this journey, the only thing I wanted to hear about what was there before the universe. That was a genuine fascination. It was so huge that I wanted to know everything about it. And Vedanta was my map for that. And having taught that so many times, what happens is that desire falls away too. And now you're at peace. You're at peace. You don't have to know anymore because you've sorted that out.
I haven't quite understood why the periodic table doesn't contain time, because elements weren't there before, they got created, and at some point of time they disappeared. So couldn't you say that that includes time too?
You've added a component that the official standardized periodic table doesn't include. They don't have an element there called time, an element called space.
But the 5 elements don't have that time element neither.
The 5 gross elements include time and space because it's.
How do they include time?
Because, see, before the universe came, you have to first create material. And so you say, what is time made of? Science doesn't have an answer to this. What is space made of? Science doesn't have an answer to this. So Veda comes in and says it's made of 5 gross elements. That's all they do. And now you say, well, what is 5 gross elements? It is the material that makes up time and space.
So time is made of 5 gross elements.
Correct. Okay.
Say it again.
Time is made of 5 gross elements.
Okay.
Yeah. Now remember, this is a model. So now what's naturally going to happen if you have a scientific mind is you're going to say, okay, so then let's look into these 5 gross elements. You can't. Because what do we say when you reduce it all into? It's mere concepts.
Yes.
And I can't see a concept. Science is the same thing. As the deeper they go, it goes from very gross into just mere mathematical formulas. So there's a certain transition when you have to come away from this westernized model that I have to see it, otherwise it's not scientific. They had the same issue with respect to science, right? I don't wish to put them down. With homeopathy or pranic healing methods or yogic methods, right? I don't see it, therefore it doesn't exist. So that's why we said earlier, you need a certain suddhi, you need to have a certain intelligent, discerning mind to accept these things. Otherwise, the mind being so gross and so, when I say gross, I mean physical, being so accustomed to physical things, it only wants to see physical things. That's why we need, yesterday we said, drop that mind into sattva mode. And the more sattvic that mode becomes, the more subtle the mind becomes. And the more subtle the mind is, the more it can relate to subtle matters of life, including the elements. That's why if you talk to someone and you look at their conversation, the quality of their conversation represents the quality of their mind. If the mind is accustomed to speaking about big, solid, tangible things, truck, train, food, right? We can smell it, we can touch it, we can taste it. Now, the moment you say, this is very easy to prove, say to children, Earth. Imagine Earth. Let's do this little exercise. Earth. Okay, Earth. So you can smell Earth. You can hear the rumbling of the rocks falling down. You can see the sky. You can feel the wind. You can taste the plants on the food. So all 5 senses are involved. Easy. Now let's go one subtler level. Let's go into water. Okay. Still, I can relate with water. Water splashes. Water, I can hear it. I can feel it. But what is water missing that Earth has? Water is missing smell. You can't smell water. You can taste water because water is natural, neutral taste, but you cannot smell. I'm not talking about contaminated seawater now. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. But just pure, like distilled water. Okay? You can't smell it. So it's still easy to relate to, but you have access to one minus sense. It doesn't work anymore, but still easy to relate to. Okay? Let's take 2 senses away and we'll see how we deal with it now. Let's go into fire. Now fire also, I can see it, I can hear it, I can feel it, but can you taste fire? Can you smell fire? Can you smell? Has anyone smelled fire? I'm not talking about smoke, just pure fire. No, you cannot taste it, nor can you smell it. Okay, still relatively easy to deal with. Now let's go even subtler. What about air? Air I can hear because it's hearable. I can also feel it, but I can't taste it. I can't smell it, and I can't see it. Already, can you see how already, air, what are you talking about? It's now already like a concept already. So what do I have to do? I have to introduce some color, some colorful air, the color, and now, I see air, I see pink, I see smoke. Already hard, but let's take away the smoke, just pure air, hard. But now let's go even subtler. Let's take away air, space. You cannot smell space, you cannot hear space, you cannot touch space, you cannot see space. Ooh, what do you mean about space? You mean outer space? No, I mean space. You tell this to the kids, they will already have a problem. Some of them. The later ones are very smart, the early ones. Like, outer space. Like, no. I mean space. Did you ever have a time relating to space? Like when people told you space, and your mind just went to outer space up there. But space, I just mean this. That's space. So it's very hard. Now, if it's so hard to relate to space, then what to say about even subtler than space, intelligence? Because space comes from intelligence. Intelligence are just concepts from which space comes. You can kind of, if you add a little bit of zeros and ones there, give you some symbolic meaning of intelligence, like binaries. But even that, it's just a concept, zeros and ones. Very subtle. And what about consciousness? Impossible. Because you can't use if I can't even use my senses for space, what to say of using my senses for intelligence? And what to say of, because at least I can perceive intelligence. I can perceive it, it changes, and it's dependent. But consciousness, all your senses are gone.
I just remembered, I think space and time are included in a mathematical, it's length times width. That's the mathematical reason for space and time. Length times width. That creates space and it creates time.
Okay.
Distance. So I think that's where they include space and time, not in a periodic table.
Okay, that's a good, I'll accept that in our research.
Yeah.
What's the difference between subtle and abstract? What's the difference between the two?
A good term. I guess they have a different usage context. Subtle, good. Abstract is more like an abstract idea. Abstract notion that needs more concreteness. But subtle is very simple. Why are your thoughts called subtle and your hand is called physical? Because I can see your hand, but I can't see your desire to move your hand. I can't see it with my senses. I can't hear that mode of desire, curiosity, attraction. That's why it's subtle. So the only reason why it's called subtle is because it's not perceivable to the five senses. I can only see the effects through your physical body, but I cannot see the cause, which is the subtle body. So what you say, so how do I tell what's inside your mind? Yeah, just through your physical body. And then I say, I know what's inside your mind. Even though I don't see your mind because it's subtle, I can infer it must be in your mind because the mind is the cause of the effects that express through the physical body.
You can infer intelligence, Ishvara, but you can't infer consciousness.
In one way you can, because see, right now we're vertical. And we know that when the person is horizontal, there's no consciousness there. So that's one way. However, if you find a way to do that, tell me you're not going to succeed, because you have to use your mind to infer consciousness. But that inference is only happening in the presence of consciousness. Remember, consciousness is the unproven prover. You can't prove it. But in the presence of it, everything else is proven, including the attempt to prove it or to infer it. So this is the 24 model of creation called the Sankhya framework. And what it wants to communicate is everything underneath the self is, as we now know, not self or mithya. Not self. But we don't use not self anymore, do we? We use mithya. That's how the teaching advances. As I said before, we have to drop these terms we used to use, not self, and replace them with a higher teaching, which is mithya. Now, when the physical body comes, then that is the start of creation or the universe. And it takes some time, according to evolution, according to the order of things, the progression of things, for species to arise. First, the rock, the lava and so on. And then you have to have small, single-celled into multi-celled organisms. And you have to wait a couple of billions of years, according to the weather patterns, the distance between the planet and the sun, how the whole thing orchestrates itself. Millions of variables dictate what kind of a jiva will live there, what would they be susceptible to, what will be their adaptability. For instance, if our Earth was hotter, then you would still have beings who can think, but they will have a certain adaptability about them, for example, to cool a lot more. In fact, already we had, why do we lose hair? Or why did we lose hair? We were all hairy, very hairy before. Would you still make love with someone who's very hairy? Like a monkey? You see how relative it is? Look at this, same human being, thinking being. So now you show me someone from a couple of millions of years ago. Suppose they can still talk and they're a monkey. And they're all females. Would you? You're like, ew, right? Like, shave. So now, you see, so your attraction for a physical body is entirely related to past causes. What evolution has programmed your physical body to see attractive, that is what you now say, I want to come back to Earth to have that. Based on one small point of time in the 4.6 billion year of evolution. That's what you want. If your body went back to, not that the atmosphere was ready for that, but 3 billion years ago, then you would find that attractive. You will find that kind of a hairy body. I want more hair, please. It's amazing how relative everything we experience is. So you can see now why the rishis, or the one who understands this, it's like, what am I being attracted to? Like, I don't get it. So it's just to mention, it's not, I'm not saying, stop this whole business, but I'm saying just try to look at it in a different manner. It's totally dependent upon other causes before. And then we buy that as true. 1,000,000 years from now, will we still be in the same height? No, we will probably be very, very, little bit different, but certainly different, maybe taller. Now, a woman wants a tall guy. Maybe it's going to reverse, and now the woman is going to find tallness attractive, and the man will find a longer woman more attractive. But now it's opposite. Again, it's relative. So now that the jiva has come, when the jiva is able to fully, look at themselves and conduct themselves and carry themselves and make decisions, they see the world, and that world for them is now like a mirage. When you go towards a mirage, you find that no matter how beautiful that water or bluish that water is, it can never satiate your thirst. So the jiva, having run from mirage to mirage, gets slowly exhausted and realizes there has to be more than these mirages. And then through the course of time, the jiva puts their hand up and asks a question, which is?
No, my question was to Sankhya philosophy.
Yeah.
Is it not a dualistic philosophy?
Yeah, it is, because they're very close. And by the way, Vedanta, Advaita, has gotten a lot of teachings from Sankhya philosophy. We borrow a lot of teachings. So this is important before I get to that point. You see, how did Advaita Vedanta originate? We had very simple systems. God is over there, we're over here. And that developed a certain following. But then the mind, because the mind is so discerning and so sophisticated, it starts to ask certain questions and find loopholes. And when it starts to find loopholes, it starts to see that prior system doesn't make sense, because that's our capacities of the mind. And then you have a slightly more sophisticated system that fills in the gaps of that prior system. Now, each system keeps on building. So Advaita is a product of Sankhya having built from all the other prior systems. You see, Sankhya has debates with Vishishtadvaitas. Vishishtadvaita has debates with Dvaitans and so on. And Advaita, same thing. I saw a certain anomaly in Sankhya, and that is, you say there is two realities, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is consciousness, and Prakriti is intelligent cause, the material cause. Now, Advaita says that's a fallacy, because how can you have, number one, as I said yesterday, if you have material over there and have consciousness over here, then number one, I wouldn't know about that material that is away, because it should be eternally away. If it's eternally away, then I wouldn't experience a changing universe, because Prakriti changes. The second problem with that is, how can material put itself together unless it's in the presence of a conscious being? They have to be together. Okay? So Vedanta finds a way to recognize that gap, and I say, no, you cannot have two realities, one over here consciousness, which is eternally separate from over there material. They have to be one and the same, because it doesn't make sense to have two things separated, because then you're introducing within space. But then who created that space? Have I answered?
Yeah.
Then when you say Advaita Vedanta is an evolved concept, because it comes after whatever we have.
Yeah, I know where this is going. Go on.
So is this an evolved concept?
Yeah. So, good. You see, we often have a idea that this just magically came. So, right here you are in a meditation, and now all that knowledge just magically comes. This is how we think. In reality, it's not like that. As a human being race, you observe any historical progression any philosophical system, what do you see? You see debates. You see looking at somebody, borrowing somebody else's discoveries, and you having a more, due to your punyam, having a more clearer mind, you're able to recognize certain gaps. And when you do, you also find those who are similar to you and slowly start to build a different kind of a system. And then you say, let's observe life. Okay, so no matter how much everyone pursues, they're never quite satisfied. Okay, so this means that there must be more to this, because by the mere virtue that I cannot ever be satisfied no matter how much I get, and when I get something, I'm satisfied for a short while until I want to go out and get it again, then there must be something in me that recognizes more. And what is that more? And since it never is able to accept what I have right now, it wants more infinity, therefore my nature must be that which is infinite. And since I always want to free myself from conditions that are on me, then that must mean that my nature must be freedom, because you always pursue what you are. The fact that I want to get rid of moksha, let go, let go, let go, let go. No matter what you give me, how much power you give me, I want more. So in other words, I want to let go of this desire that I need to get more, because something in me says, I am free. This is a condition on me that doesn't deserve to be on me. I want to free myself. And so like this, the rishis observe the human conditions and they put it all together within an oral tradition. And that oral tradition slowly starts to again get contrasted in respect to other schools, and some parts get changed because that school also found something very good. So now I borrow their system and I put it into my system, and slowly you have a system that is non-contradictable. Science is not any different. Exactly like science. There was no scientist who just sat down and discovered Velcro or microwave. That took, or E equals mc squared. It was borrowed based on other mathematicians, based on other physicists. And so you having that clearer mind, you're able to find fallacies, remove fallacies, refine the system until it can no longer be contradicted. And then you present your system before a panel of experts. And then you have a debate. And if you cannot survive, because they're going to be throwing you questions to find objections, and if you cannot answer every one of those objections, what does that mean? There is a hole, a fallacy in my own thinking. So now I have to go back and say, I made a mistake. Now you multiply this entire activity of back and forth for hundreds of years by brilliant minds, and you're going to certainly create what's called the science of consciousness. We don't call it science of consciousness, we call it Advaita Vedanta.
Then would you say it's still an open book, expandable, even though it's sufficient for now?
It's non-negatable.
Right, but it's expandable, according to what you just said.
Expandable?
Expandable. That means, say 50 years from now, more clearer mind, they may add something, like they put Ramashi's book into one of the Upanishads.
See, eventually you come to the final reality, and the final reality mentions the substance of all that is. Like the clay. Once you discover the final reality, and you cannot contradict it, because we did the analysis, I cannot take away the isness of the pot, isness of the clay, isness of the minerals, isness of whatever it is, that's never going to change. So eventually you come and you perfect the system to the point where you cannot improve it anymore. Now, of course, you've got modern psychology, CBT, DBT, ACT, Gestalt therapy, NLP, and so on. That can certainly add and contribute extra value, but not for consciousness. That is pertinent specifically for the Veda. For the mind, you've got brilliant Western systems that can help with that. Therefore, that's how Advaita Vedanta arose.
I think she's asking if is it final, the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Is it final? It is final.
It's the final knowledge, yeah.
All these that you said, the different techniques, they just help people to understand.
Yeah, they help people to understand that final knowledge. Yeah.
And sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is what you also come to realize more and more as this knowledge starts to percolate throughout your being, that by having this kind of knowledge and perceiving the world through the eyes of this knowledge, everything makes sense. Every single framework that ever gets introduced, people send me, hey, check out this WhatsApp link. Hey, check out this video, Andre. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to look at it and it's going to be kindergarten. And I look at it and it's not kindergarten, it's actually grade 0. And they think, no, this is the next best thing. So I'm not talking about me right now. I'm just showing you when you have a model that allows everything else to find a right place, nothing can be above that. You have found that highest of the highest, which has no higher. And Lord Krishna beautifully says, I have taught this knowledge to you, Arjuna, in chapter 4, to many. Arjuna says, how do you taught to many before you 1,000 years ago? You're only born 40 years ago. No, wait, I'm not talking about my physical body. I'm talking about the eternal Ishvara, which has always persisted in every incarnation of every universe that's ever existed. This knowledge always arises. How? Because the human mind is so sophisticated that it will find logical fallacies, and it will not settle until it can no longer contradict something. That's the key that we're given. That's Maya's gift for us. And of course, to get to that place, you need a certain sattvic disposition.
So Vedanta describes and explains reality, that what is. And the knowledge can't get evolved, but the gurus do. Like with what comes through your mind is much more accessible for me than coming through Adi Shankara's mind, because it's like so well sorted out and explained.
So the knowledge already being complete, coming through the messenger, depending on the messenger's own prior experience and their own refinement of their mind, will depend on the receptivity of the student. That's how well you will receive it. That also is a contributing factor. So there are so many factors, but as we said, Shankaracharya said very beautifully, what's the primary determinant of your success? It is not the guru, nor is it the cold aircon, nor is it the hot weather, it is you. Because we all have the experience of when something's so important to you, something matters to you so much, everything fades away. It just fades away, and you're one single-handedly focused. And the mind has the ability to do that. We all have the ability. Kids play computer games for hours. People play poker for hours. We all have that ability, and you just have to discover that in yourself. You need to clarify your mind and purify your mind. Clean up, get your act together. Otherwise, this won't make sense. And the person will resist it, and they will find some arguments, and they will just go on endlessly, which happens to be discussed in the next verse after the break. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.